Yo, what's good, people? We are here with part 54 of Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine. Witches, wizards, warlocks, magicians, magus, and magi. Let us continue. We're going to touch on a little bit more fantasy, breaking bounds, many selves, and the neutral self. Here we go. Now, it is first necessary to see that there is a program. To say perhaps, this creature is mine, but not wholly me. What follows then is that the prey becomes the hunter, pulling apart the obsession, naming its parts, searching for fragments of understanding in its entrails, shrinking it, devouring it, peeling the layers of onion skin. This is in itself a magic as powerful as any sorcery, unbinding the knots that we have tied and tangled, sorting out the threads of experience and color-coding the chains of chance. It may leave us freer, more able to act effectively and less likely to repeat old mistakes. The thing has a Chinese puzzle-like nature. We can perceive only the present, and it requires intense siftings through memory to see the scaffolding beneath. The grip of obsession upon us has three components: cognitive, our thoughts and feelings in relation to the situation. These must be ruthlessly analysed and cut down by self-assessment, banishing, or some similar strategy. Physiological, anxiety responses of heart rate, muscle tone, and blood pressure. The body must be stilled by relaxation and meditation. Behavioural, what we must do, or more often not do. Often our obsessive behaviour is entirely inappropriate and potentially damaging to others. Usually, it takes other people to point this out. Analytic techniques such as I Ching or Tarot may be useful. Breaking bounds. A simple yet effective approach to ego magic is to use a positive ego identification to overcome a negative ego identification. For example, I hate mathematics. As a teenager, I often cut school classes in mathematics and would go to any lengths to avoid anything which involved algebra or logical formulas. According to a child psychologist, I had developed a mathematics block, which has, up until recently, remained pretty unshakable. The I know I cannot do mathematical things, that self-statement, is the negative ego identification here. My example of a positive ego identification is, I can get computers to do what I want them to. Since moving to my present company, I have gained a reputation for being the person to ask about computer problems, mainly due to the fact that I read the manuals, experiment with the programs, and I like customizing them when allowed. The two ego identifications came together quite suddenly when I was asked to develop a series of databases to cover a series of tasks. This was no problem initially, but suddenly I found that I had to set up mathematical formula for calculating value added tax or differing percentage discounts on products. Here, the two ego identifications came into direct conflict. I should point out that my awareness that this was the case arose gradually through the task, and in the end, the stronger of the two was the identification that I can make computers do things, which has in turn weakened my resistance to mathematical things. This is not so much a conscious process of setting one identification against another, but more of becoming aware of what is happening during such a transaction. The breaking of such conditioned barriers can be observed when an individual assumes a sexual identity, particularly if the identity has been associated with negative conditioning such as being homosexual or a transvestite. There is usually a conflict between one's own perceived nature, negative ego conditioning, and the desire to act upon the basis of self-identification. So the self-statement, am I really one of those, becomes associated with both desire and self-loathing. Many selves. One idea that is becoming more popular is the concept of the Legion of Selves, something that both New Agers and Chaos Magicians find attractive. Rather than pursuing the dualistic fondness for higher and lower selves, egos and superegos, etc., there is the idea that we are a multiplicity of identities out of which the sense of self-identity emerges. A similar idea exists in some tantric philosophies that Shiva, consciousness, is surrounded by a bag of Shaktis, but that he's not fucking all of them at once. Here, the approach is to identify the different selves and give them all, as your situation befits, a turn at being the one which is the seat of identity. It can be helpful to define a number of distinct personalities, which you can flip in and out of as the need arises. The neutral self. You hold yourself as slightly distant and aloof from other people, so that you can observe them covertly, finding out their strengths and weaknesses. You are quiet and economical in your movements. Every word you speak is measured, and you are not given to veracity by any means. You rarely demonstrate disapproval or, for that matter, approval, and seem to accept other people's behaviour as a matter of course. We're going to stop it there, and we will be back tomorrow with more Condensed Chaos.